We could say hate is as total as love. Anger is as total as love. Dishonesty is as total as love. Because whatever you are intent upon, all of the power of singularity will be embodied in it. It is impossible, continuing, it is as impossible to deny part of the sonship as it is to love it in part. Nor is it possible to love it totally at times, nor is it possible to love it totally at times. You cannot be totally committed sometimes. Remember a very early lesson. Never underestimate the power of denial. It has no power in itself, but you can give it the power of your mind, whose power is without limit of any kind. Now, you must remember here that this is referring to the Christ that you are, that you've never stopped being, even though you deny it. Your mind is, like we said last week, the only mind there is. Mind is a singularity. There is only one. That mind is God. That mind is gifted by God to every single part of His creations. That mind is the one conscious experience of being conscious that you are experiencing. It's the Christ mind because it's the mind of God. So denial has no power in itself, but you can give it the power of your mind, the Christ that you are. You can give it the power of your mind, and I might add, foolishly, of course, whose power is without limit of any kind. If you use it to deny reality, reality is gone for you. Reality cannot be partly appreciated. Again, reality cannot be partly appreciated. That is why denying any part of it means you have lost awareness of all of it. If you get up in the morning and you say, boy, yesterday so-and-so was a real bastard and really wrecked up my day. Well, as you get up and move into your day with that thought and that context, it won't be just so-and-so who is colored by your distress. It's going to be that the milk's not cold enough in your bowl of Cheerios. It's going to be all the lousy drivers on the freeway. It's going to be the circumstances that got you to work seconds before you would be late. It is going to color everything. Because you really can't be a divided experience of consciousness. Mind you, this isn't because there's anything going on in creation or the world that is true justification for your misery. But when you employ misery relative to one part of creation, it will spread to every part of your conscious experience. Why? Because mind is a singularity. You used to think of your real mind and the ego as though they were two different minds. Stop. Let go of that concept. The only difference between your right mind and the ego is the difference in the use you're putting your one and only mind to use. You're either putting it to good use or bad use. But there's only one mind. I point this out to you so that you might understand that the ego is not a mind claiming to be your mind that you must escape from, and which you might not have a very good chance of escaping from because, it's a defense mechanism, and it is very excellent at what it does, and so it is going to be a struggle. Now, it's a matter of choice between using the one singular mind that there is well instead of poorly. It means taking responsibility for how you're using your mind and being conscious enough not to slip into the sloppy habit of trying to be loving and angry at the same time. I am a loving person who has a right to be angry. I am a loving person who has a right to be pissed off at you. And boy, am I pissed off at you. Now, Susie Q over here, I love her. She's a sweetheart. But you're a bastard. I hate you. And you have that all in one sentence. And you think you're feeling those things simultaneously. And it's impossible. And you don't recognize it and you don't challenge it. And as a result, you block the extension of love that it is the function of your being to be, and you feel miserable. Loving little Susie Q doesn't really make you feel good. It's just a nice contrast to how much you hate so-and-so. And it doesn't move you out of misery. Susan, I'm making no reference to you when I say Susie Q. Reality, continuing or repeating, reality cannot be partly appreciated. That is why denying any part of it means you have lost awareness of all of it. You see, Paul isn't so different from all of you, and he thinks that he can be conscious of reality partly, even if he's distressed. But the fact is that whatever consciousness there is of reality that he thinks he has is still under the shadow and gloom of the misery he's experiencing because he thinks he's been hurt. He thinks something has been successfully taken away from him that couldn't possibly have been taken away from him. And so, if you deny any part of it, you have lost awareness of all of it in its true light. Continuing, that is the negative side of the law as it operates in this world. Yet denial is a defense, and so it is as capable of being used positively as it is of being used destructively. In other words, denial can be used on behalf of unifying just as it can be used on behalf of dividing. of disintegrating. Don't look for that in the book. I'm saying that. Used negatively, it will be destructive because it will be used for attack. Another word for attack is defense. When you are being defensive, you are engaging in attack against that which you are defending yourself. Used negatively, it will be destructive because it will be used for attack. But in the service of the Holy Spirit, the law requires you to recognize only part of reality to appreciate all of it. Well, let's bring that down to earth here. You come up to a friend, a neighbor, an associate, a boss, whoever. And as I said, unless they're awake, they're in a costume and presenting a mask. Denial is, positively speaking, your instant recognition that the mask and the costume aren't the individual. And you choose not to honor the mask or the costume, but to acknowledge the individual. You see, now you have denied the presentation, the costume. Whatever means that one is using to defend himself or herself, because he or she, like you, knows that in the separated and alone state of mind that he or she is in, everything calls for defense, because vulnerability is the bottom line of that experience. That person doesn't necessarily know that, but that one experiences it as though it's real, and that's why they employ a mask, and that's why they employ a costume, just as with you. True denial is your unwillingness to respond to the costume or the mask and to insist upon recognizing that there is something divinely real behind and underneath the mask and costume. And that's the only thing you're willing to communicate with, to be present with, to witness for. That is the positive use of denial. So again, used negatively, it will be destructive or divisive because it will be used for attack. But in the service of the Holy Spirit, the law requires you to recognize only part of reality, the part behind the mask of that individual or another individual, not all of the brotherhood. And the law requires you to recognize only part of reality to appreciate all of it. Mind, your mind, the mind of the Christ that you are, is too powerful to be subject to exclusion. And likewise, mind, the mind that your brother is too powerful to be subject to exclusion. You will never be able to exclude yourself from what you project. When a brother acts insanely, and your brothers will, and so will you until you're awake, but less and less. When a brother acts insanely, he is offering you an opportunity to bless him. Well, this week Paul wasn't interested in blessing anyone. After all, he believed he had actually been hurt, actually been deprived of something. Some part of him had been taken away by being ignored. Such insanity. When a brother acts insanely, he is offering you an opportunity to bless him. His need is yours. You need the blessing you can offer him. That doesn't mean you have the same problem he has. It means that since your function is to be the extension of love that the Father is being through you, because that is your function, you need to be engaging it. And he needs, your brother needs, the blessing. You need the blessing of fulfilling your function and knowing that you are. Not knowing in your head, but experiencing the fact that you are and feeling the integrity of you. You need the blessing you can offer him. There is no way for you to have it except by giving it. Write this down and put it on your refrigerator. There is no way for you to have it, the blessing, except by giving it. This is the law of God, and it has no exceptions. In other words, this is the way being works. That's what is so simple about all of this. Continuing, what you deny, you lack. Not because it is lacking, but because you have denied it in another and are therefore not aware of it in you. You've denied it in another. You've denied it in another by being unwilling to extend the love that it's your function to be extending. So you have denied it in another, but by virtue of not extending it, you've denied it to yourself. So you see, this has nothing to do with whether or not another is worthy of your love. It has nothing to do with what he seems to have done to you or not to have done to you. It has nothing to do with whether he knows more or less than you, or you are in a worse position than him. It has nothing to do with all of these configurations of conflicting ideas that you've put together and are believing. It has to do with the fact that it's your function to extend love. And you won't experience being loved until you extend it. And that one will not experience it until someone is willing to extend it, and thereby not respond to the costume and the mask, and thereby provide an environment in which that one can more easily say, well, maybe I don't need this costume and this mask. Maybe I don't need this defense. He deserves the blessing because of who he is or she is underneath the mask and the costume. And you deserve the blessing because it's your function to be in receipt of it because you are extending it. This is what brings you back into your right mind, and this is what brings you back into the true experience of reality. Now, continuing, every response you make is determined by what you think you are. And what you want to be is what you think you are. It's simple. whatever you're being right now, whatever way you're being, however you're identifying yourself right now, however you are conceiving of who and what you are right now, it is exactly what you want. And if you are a person who is always a victim, if you are a person who can always find a parking space right in front of the place you're going, if you are a person who has generally happy relationships, or if you are a person who has generally frustrating relationships, it's because this is what you want. Because you don't do what you don't want. And if you're getting what you don't want, you have to be willing to look at the configuration of beliefs that you're valuing and holding on to. Oh, you know, I'm in such a self-defeating situation. I'm on welfare, but welfare is set up so that it's almost impossible to get off of welfare, because once you start making money, they decrease your welfare, and that isn't enough to keep you going, and to hell with it, I'm just going to stay on welfare. Now there's a string of ideas held in a context that you find valuable. You would say, I don't want this misery. But you won't let go of the ideas that continue to reinforce it. You are experiencing exactly what you want, and you are what you are currently defining yourself as, and until you want something different, you will have this because you want it. Admittedly, you want it for crazy reasons, for inconsistent, illogical, and conflicted reasons. But nevertheless, you have justifications right down to the dots on the I's and the crosses on the T's. Oh, I know this is insulting to your egos, but it is empowering to the Christ that you are, because it tells you that you hold the key. In a way, you hold the power of decision, the power of vigilance, to choose once again in a new way, and to use denial constructively by saying, this is inconsistent, this does not make sense, and I refuse to validate it, because the truth is, I am the beloved son or daughter of God, from whom he has withheld nothing. Therefore, nothing has been taken away from me, and I am not at a disadvantage, even though at the moment I cannot see where the advantage is. But I'm not going to continue to validate the justifications I have been using for staying at a disadvantage. Every response you make is determined by what you think you are, and what you want to be is what you think you are, at least for the time being. You can want to be something else. Therefore, what you want to be determines every response you make. Paul wanted to be miserable last week, and it governed every response he made. Just ask Susan. And he's no different from you. Continuing, You do not need God's blessing. You do not need God's blessing, since that you have forever. But you do need yours. Again, as I said last week, let the reign of divine truth, life, and love be established in me. That's your prayer. That's your prayer made to yourself. You are saying, I want to let the truth be established in me. I am willing to let it be established in me because it already is established in me. That's you blessing yourself. You do not need God's blessing, since that you have forever, but you do need yours. The picture you see of yourselves is deprived, unloving, and very vulnerable. Oh, somebody say, oh, no, it isn't. It's not all that bad. Well, as someone said earlier today, well, everybody's going to die. Well, I'm sorry, but that's a deprived, unloving, and vulnerable idea. That isn't true. And needs to be rejected outright instead of rehearsed and put into the air as though it's a fact. Well, everybody's going to get sick once in a while. I mean, there are germs all over the place. Yeah, we're just human. That's a deprived, unloving, and vulnerable idea. And you subject yourself to it. And you don't challenge it, at least not consistently enough. The picture you see, therefore, of yourselves is deprived, unloving, and vulnerable if you're not awake. That isn't what it says here. What it says is, the picture you see of yourselves is deprived, unloving, and very vulnerable, period. You cannot love this, yet you can very easily escape from it, or better, leave it behind. You are not there, and that is not you. Do not see this picture in anyone, or you have accepted it as you. If you accept it in anyone else, you have accepted it as you. If you haven't accepted it as you, or we'll say as being true about you, then in looking at another who is claiming it to be true about them, you'll say, no way, Jose. Because it's not part of your picture of yourself. It's not part of your conception of yourself. Listen to this. All illusions about the sonship are dispelled together as they were made together. Again, understand that when Paul chose to be miserable this last week, his whole world looked miserable to him. In other words, all of creation was made to look miserable together at the same time, even though Paul was choosing only one or two individuals to be distressed about. So the illusion always affects the perception of everything simultaneously. Again, all illusions about the sonship are dispelled together as they were made together. Teach no one that he is what you would not want to be. Teach no one that he is what you would not want to be.